On the cutting edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, E.W. Gannett.
Well, hello and greetings from the Sunrise Command. This is your buddy Dave over Mars X3D. And you know, if you're new to the channel, it's not going to make any sense to you until you learn how to view in X3D. Now, there are a couple of links down below where most people can learn in about 2 minutes time. It's really easy, but it's so cool because it turns your entire monitor or cell phone or whatever you're looking at this on into a giant ViewMaster. How cool is that? It's free. You don't have to buy anything. You don't need any equipment. All you need is a little basic coordination that most of us have, and absent any eye pathologies, you should be able to view X3D in a moment. Hey, we got some neat stuff going on up here. Now, about to wrap up our summertime vacation here at the Sunrise Command and head back down to the bitter cold northern states, which are about to be bitter cold. And by golly, we got a lot of things planned. We're going to get back to our live hangs in about 2 weeks. And we have a lot of materials to cover. I'm being swamped by submissions from other researchers for conversion into 3D and just to have me look at them. And boy, I really appreciate that. But please understand, I'm just one guy. I'm working as fast as I can, but it does take a little while to get to every one of these. I have a brilliant find by my friend Neil Spence, Petraeus B on the moon, of all things. An absolutely brilliant find, and some other very cool things today. So, enough talk. Let's dive in and have a look. Rami Bar-Ilan is a great anomaly hunter, but as I've mentioned before, he doesn't cite his work, so finding any particular source image for his finds is a real challenge. And for most of us who are busy producing channels and running websites, we just don't have the time to examine literally hundreds of thumbnails looking for his find. But you know, he does do a great job of processing images. So I thought I'd coax his actual 2D posts into the 3D realm and share them with you that way. So you need to understand that what you're seeing is Rami's image processing, not mine. I just do the X3D. By the way, that word just represents many years of learning how to get 3D data from a 2D image. Anyway, this little oddity is from Curiosity's earliest days on Mars. It sure looks like an old-fashioned derby, doesn't it? But you can see from the scale that it's barely 3 inches across. I suppose it could have been a doll's hat, but more likely it's some kind of end cap for a bolt or other mechanical fitting. And yes, I know some of you are convinced that a miniature Martian dropped it on his way down the rabbit hole. I'm ready to eat a giant crow pie the day you show me unequivocal images, sharp and clear, and with some kind of metric available so there's no doubt as to its size. Until that day arrives, for me to eat crow, I must stick to a good ribeye. This one is really intriguing. My friend Terry Burnett posted this the other day. I've lightened things up a bit so you can see the landscape a bit better, but this was basically taken by Curiosity's navcams just past sunset on Mars, and overall the original image is almost totally black. You can see that point of light shining out from a bluff quite some distance away. And by the way, this one is kind of challenging to see in X3D due to the indistinct landscape and dark lighting. But we'll give it a shot anyway, right? Here's the thing. We've seen light sources in several of the Curiosity images, and there's just no valid explanation for their being there, other than there being an actual light shining at the camera. And here's another thing. See how round and well defined that light source is? That makes me want to say that this is either collimated light, that is light focused into a parallel beam using lenses, or possibly even laser light, in order for it to be so sharply visible and so nicely defined at such a distance. Whatever or whomever is creating this light, we know for certain that it isn't us. Laszlo Shabalix shared this really interesting find from Neville Thompson's GMAC of Percy 145. Do you see that little arch inside the yellow target off in the distance? I'll explain in a moment why I called this one Party Tent 2.0, but first, let's take a closer look. It seems clear to me that this is a hollow protective structure, kind of a cross between a tent and a Quonset hut. And what are those three circular objects inside? The one in the shadows is pretty tough to see, but it's there. How big is it? Well, as far as I know, there aren't any metrics available on Percy Zcam images, but I would say very conservatively that this is no more than 2 or 3 feet across. Anyway, I found a similar structure a while back that I called Party Tent, which is why this image is called Party Tent 2.0. This one is from the early days of Spirit rover, and you can see that it seems to be a transparent, tent-like structure. It kind of gives the impression of being made of a fairly rigid, translucent material, maybe a polymer of some kind. I doubt that cloth, even ripstop nylon, would last very long in the wind-blown sand conditions on Mars, but who knows? My friend Jim West is another long-time and very dedicated researcher who has made any number of important discoveries. We keep finding anomalies that look like they have blank screens on them, like a computer or a cell phone that's been turned off. This one is possibly another screen, and as usual, the interesting stuff seems to fall right on the very edge of the image. By the way, the black space is not the sky. It's just the non-image part of Nev's GMAC. So, what are we to make of this? Is this another screen, or is it a perfectly carved trapezoidal opening centered in a trapezoidal object with all kinds of symmetry and nicely rounded corners? Let's take a look at a similar object. This is one found by Laszlo in Nev's GMAC of Percy 156. You know, even at this distance, you can see the evenly shaped trapezoidal piece inside the green target. What the heck is this? We have what might be another screen perfectly centered inside another trapezoidal object. In the bottom of the dark area, we can faintly see what might be a continuation of the rock texture to the right. Or has this object been rockified by NASA with a false texture overlay? By the way, if you want to learn a bit more about NASA's little tricks, we go into depth on that in our interview with Alan Walker in our most recent Marvin Moments. Is it possibly just a fortuitously shaped shadow that happens with exactly the right angle of sunlight? The answer is no. Those edges are rigidly straight, and the opening, if that's what it is, goes into the rock, unless, of course, it's a blackened screen from a dead electronic device. But, you know, since that's crazy, I won't even bother saying it. My friend Neil Spence is rapidly becoming one of the premier image processors in an already elite group of specialists that includes Neville Thompson, Paul Marshall, and several others that I could name. This is a brilliant find Neil shared from his beautiful rendition of the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Camera, or LROC image that was taken of the Petraeus B area on our moon. I've cropped it so you can see his amazing pyramid right in the center. Look at the razor-sharp perfection of this tetrahedral pyramid. As you focus in on it, look at the patterns of bombardment, the clusters of tiny craters. I find it interesting to note one group to the left of the top ridge with 3 or 4 direct hits right on the ridge, but the other 2 ridges have clusters directly on top of the ridges and evenly distributed on either side of the ridges. That seems very strange for a natural occurrence. Now, it's probably just meteor showers that did this, but if we imagine for a moment that they were directed attacks against the structure, it's almost like the upper cluster was an initial targeting attempt, while the other 2 represent targeting solutions, and really accurate ones at that. And before we shelve this idea as mere fantasy, look at the impact crater just to the upper left of the pyramid's apex. It's perfectly bisected by the ridge, isn't it? What are the chances of that happening by accident? Well, that's it for this week, and with plenty of material backed up, so there'll be videos coming and coming and coming for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, if you saw something you liked, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps me to know whether to continue this work, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. To all my friends and proud weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. Until then, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X 3D. Be well.